Okay, relatively quick Hackboard update for you, and that is I got the eDP port working. Um, so this is currently outputting to a 12 and a half inch panel running at 1080p, and I'll show the Hackboard on the back here to show that it really is there. And then there's the flat flex cable. I had to do a little bit of foldy origami to get it to run out to the connector. But sure enough, this is the Hackboard2 driving this panel. This is one of the panels whose support is listed in the BIOS explicitly. So let me exit out of Debian here and show you. So the reason, I don't remember if this made it into a video earlier, but the reason why it didn't work before was really ignorance on my part, and that is specifically that I didn't know that I knew that eDP ports came in lots of different configurations, but I didn't know specifically that this type, where you have just a standard, so this is a segment of the cable. So you had just a piece of flat flex with exposed connectors and a little rigidizer on the back, and then the special little connector that goes into the eDP panel on the other side. On There's two types. There's the A type and the B type, and on the B type, they're on opposite sides, and that is the type that I had purchased. On the A type, the contacts are on the same side. So essentially, what that means is that if you have the wrong type, the pinout is 180 degrees reversed from what you actually need. So what I did to get this to work was, well, first off, how I discovered it is because someone from the Hackboard team did eventually end up reaching out to me regarding eDP, and they showed me some pictures of their setup. And one thing that I noticed, not right away, but eventually I noticed that the orientation of their display to Hackboard was different from mine. So where their flat flex cable was laid out flat, and their display was facing up, and the Hackboard was upside down. Well, with my cable, the display was facing up, and the Hackboard was facing up, so our connectors were reversed. And so I thought there was a chance that maybe on their screen had a backwards eDP connector, and I fiddled around with it a little bit. I did a little bit of research. I fiddled around with mine a little bit, and I did some research on the screen that they used, because they did include the model number, and it does not have a backwards eDP connector. So that's when I then discovered that there's A-type cables and B-type cables. And so what I did on mine was I just trimmed off the edge. And this is actually, this little cutoff piece is from the first attempt. And I trimmed off the edge, and I hit it with a little bit of sandpaper to wear down to the bare copper. And that worked, but it was a little bit flickery. So that's when I kind of temporarily mounted the Hackboard to the back of this panel, just a little bit of hot glue on standoffs just to keep everything tidy during some testing. And it works. It was a little flickery last time, but it's working great this time. So the panel I am using is this AUO brand B125HAN02. The .201 model, I believe, is specifically the touch model. I am using the one that's just the .0 model. That's working perfectly fine. This panel, again, it's 12 and a half inches diagonal and runs at about 1080p, which is a nice high resolution. It's not too high. But you can see there's two other panels here that are listed as supported as well. I will also mention that this panel, which is an 11-inch panel out of a Dell Chromebook, this panel also worked. It's an NT116WHM-N21, and this one worked. However, I've got this big monster 17-inch panel, and it did not work. Its model, I believe, is this right here, this LP173WF4. but I didn't also fiddle with it that much, so it's possible that I had just bad connections. But it's also very possible that this just needs way more energy to drive all the LEDs in this massive panel compared to what the board is suited for. The one they describe in the manual, though, is a 15-inch, and this other AUO brand, the B156, is also 15-inch. So you've got a couple of different options there. But I was excited to see that it does work, and normal controls are accessible. We can change the brightness. I like running it, at least inside, a little bit brighter. And of course, power concerns, not a problem because I'm not running on battery yet. But everything got picked up automatically. I'm leaving all these LCD controls on auto, and it seems to be working fine. So, I guess everything's good. Debian doesn't have any problems with it. It fires right up and, works as expected. Obviously, I was in the BIOS, so we can manipulate the BIOS. So, yeah, just making some progress with the Hackboard. We have a directly attached screen working now. And you can get these panels real cheap. You can, of course, pull them out of machines that use them. Like, for example, this Chromebook panel I have came out of a scrapped Chromebook. I'm sure you can get these for next to nothing. The downside with this particular model is that it's a relatively low resolution. It's only 1366 by 768. So if you wanted 1080p like this, this one I think was $30 delivered. It's obviously not brand new. It's got a little bit of gunk on the edging and, from the adhesive from where the old screen bezel was glued on. So it's not perfect, but it was cheap and it works. And that stuff can all be cleaned off. And also, I'm going to end up putting this into some kind of a case. It's got some mounting tabs on it. So I'm going to, build somehow, whether it's from some 3D printed materials or, maybe little strips of wood or something. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it yet. But it works. So this is a great start. So just wanted to share this with folks, and I'll put the information about the panels that I used, as well as the right type of cables, the A cables that I have ordered. I have on order. They are also really cheap. I'll link that stuff in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. Thank you.